All right, thanks, Frank. Yep, it's on. Evening, Kevin. How you doing?
Okay, I think we're starting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, everybody got an opportunity to review the minutes or the agenda. So, minutes.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
I second the consent agenda. Chuck Scalise.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any citizen comments?
Nope, no one reached out to me with a interest in speaking, so.
On to the finance report.
I have nothing new to report.
Carrie's been working very diligently to go through our QuickBooks account and try to true a lot of stuff up and get it working in a matter of which that, it should help us, as we move forward, effectively and productively continue to track stuff a lot easier within the office. So that's what she's been working on. Other than that, there's like she said, there's been no change to the general finances of the authority.
If I could make a recommendation, as time permits, and I understand that you're doing a lot of catch up, is to, on the balance sheet, it's nice to be able to have a comparative column. So maybe the numbers from 12 months ago compared to this year, and whenever that could be, set up in the accounting software. This way you can see if there's a change. It kind of draws your attention to that, and it could be it could signal conversation. Then, but that's other than that, I think that for me that's helpful to kind of see if there's any difference between today or end of period to 12 months ago.
Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of where we're working to. Is, there's been a lot like, well, how much did we spend on this? And that was the way it was tracked before does not allow for that. So we're trying to move it to that point so that we can see what we're spending on ABC, throughout the year, so that we can compare it to our year to date or our previous year expenditures.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. And thank you.
Sorry, I had another question. Key Bank, any update? I know you couldn't find files. Is there any movement on getting that off our books?
About a month ago, I got a call from a loan officer who said they were with Key Bank or someone who represented Key Bank, and they wanted to come to an agreement on getting a payment sent to them. I told them that I was not at the liberty to make that decision right then, but if they would send me over the loan documents, then I would greatly, I'd gladly present it to the board, and we would see what we could do. Since he did say he had the loan documents, I gave him my email address for him to send them over, and I have not heard anything from them since. So it's again dead in the water. I didn't get his name when he called. I didn't get a number to return. He took all my information and was going to reach back out, and that was the last I heard from them. So at this point, they still continuously send us a statement every month with our accruing interest on the past due balance, and that's where we stand.
Okay. Thank you.
And proposed 2022 budget.
All right, so we put together a proposed 2022 budget based upon our, as you know, our standard delivery from our multiple funding sources. So you got the land bank, county CDBG, our West Bayfront, LHRD, city CDBG, our home services contract with the city of Erie, Act 137. So all of those sources, to generate revenue into the authority. And then we added a ARP housing plan line item. So, and then we went through and we looked at, along with the organizational chart and the housing plan and how we had planned to staff up for that plan. So we went through there. We kind of generally put together adding 4 positions hypothetically over the next year to our budget and came up with a salary number, and inputted 466,000 of the ARP dollars would be spent toward administrative costs over 2022. If you take, our allocations and break it out over the next 3 years, the 15% that we had put in there for operating expenses comes out to $754,000 a year for the next 3 years. So 466 does not come close to that. So there's certainly still room there, but I didn't want to over allocate initially, since we're still in the planning stages and not quite sure where we will lay with a lot of those expenses at this point. So I put 466 in there. So that increased the salary portion of this, and then there was some general increases to the remaining items. We added some advertisements, some job recruiting fees, since we have to advertise for positions. What else did we add? Some office furniture, supplies, things like that. We're going to have to get some more computers for staff, desks, chairs, things like that. Increased travel, increased training for representatives, as far as staff for training as they're brought on board.
Aaron, question. Can you remind me, this budget is for the calendar year?
Yes.
So January 1?
Year, January 1 to December 31st.
Is that also the fiscal year of the organization?
Yes.
Okay, sometimes I forget where I'm at.
Yeah, the authority's fiscal year is January 1 to
So it is a calendar year then. So since we're seeing this for the first time tonight, do we want to take are you looking for approval of this tonight then, so that you can remain open January 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the plan.
Just checking, we don't want to go to the shutdown or anything. I just want to make sure we know what the rules are here. So forgive me, I'm new, so we'll have lots of questions.
I had some questions on all of the line items. How did we determine the budget? Was there a percentage of increase for each line item? Did we go by that? Or?
Yeah, we kind of took the budgets that we have put together over the last 3 or 4 years and just generally increased them based upon the increase in the budget line of our revenue coming in, just to kind of give it that. Like I said, and that's where Carrie and I had gotten into that conversation of, well, how much have we spent on this and how do we do this, and just kind of made some realizations that those things weren't being tracked in the past, and so that we're going to do a better job here over the next year to track those.
And how does the ARP money work? Does that come to us in one lump sum, or yes?
Yes, it should. Now, they're working on, and we knew this was going to come down the pipeline, the intergovernmental agreement. They will need to do an addendum to it now that we have a better understanding of what the reporting requirements are going to be. So they'll want to make sure that the Redevelopment Authority is reporting and collecting the information that they need in order to justify the expenses. So that should be ready for council probably in January. We still have to meet on that. I'm putting different hats on as I answer this question.
So we may have to amend this budget based on.
I think it will come. It's just we get it all in January or February.
And it'll be in the same line items.
It'll be in those same line items. And also, I'm glad you've underestimated the admin on this, because I believe what we'll be able to do is use that funding through the end of 2026. So you'll be able, to extend the admin into those two more years.
And that's what I was kind of hoping for, is that we could extend it out, and then in hopes that come that 4th or 5th year, we'd be able to regenerate some of that loan revenue at that point, which would then help offset some of those costs as well.
Correct.
That is our authority-sponsored retirement.
And Aaron, you were saying that the system, the way that this information was inputted in the past, you wouldn't be able to generate the 2021 budget and show a comparative analysis?
No, we could get you something, but it would not be an accurate representation of what was actually spent by each line item.
Okay. Well, maybe next year we'll be able to do that, because
That-
then you
that-
can see.
Yeah, that is our hope, that we'll be able to come to you at the end of 2022 with an actual budget that shows you what we have spent year to date by this point.
Right.
So what I've been working on, what he's been talking about that I've been working on is,
Is this a mic? Can you turn this on? Hang on, it's off.
mine's on,
Is it?
the green light's
Closer,
on.
maybe?
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
I'm gonna come, sorry if I get down there.
Oh,
Hearing impaired, not hearing very well.
well, and these microphones aren't going to help you, Rose.
They're not.
No, it doesn't go to the speakers. It only goes to online.
So I'm just gonna come down here so that I can hear a little bit better. Get closer.
So everything in the past, as I've been looking through the book, seemed to be pretty generalized, just lump sum together in a general, just account. We might just say delivery income. So nothing was separated by like what type of expense it was. So my goal is to come in and put account numbers on everything, which is what I've been working on. But I want to kind of make it across the board through all the QuickBooks and all the different company authorities that we're handling, so that everything's the same across the board. So no matter what it is, whether it's an office supply or a recruitment fee, that everybody has the same account number in every book. And then that way, when we go to do a comparison, I can actually do a comparison. And if I use the same, the other issue is these were being kept track on Excel spreadsheets versus in the actual QuickBooks ERP systems. So when expenses are coming in and coming out, nothing's coming off budget manually in a report that you could see how much you have left, the balance left. So my goal is by January 1 to have everything detailed out and the budgets in those systems, so that way when money's being spent or income's coming in, you can see it coming in and out. And so then after you get at least 3 years, that's when you can really do, like you were talking about, and how you know of an increase and how much things have gone up and how you can base that percentage of this increases and decreases.
So you're using QuickBooks?
QuickBooks is what it is, yes.
Okay, any other questions?
Oh.
So are you looking for a motion to approve the budget?
We have we're gonna,
Oh.
a resolution.
Oh.
To adopt the attached 2022 operating budget, incorporate into the minutes of this meeting. Do we have a motion to do that?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, move forward. Report from the executive director.
All right, so the property report for November 2021 is a little pretty lean. No properties were acquired, no properties were sold. The grant, our commercial facade grant from 2019 was reallocated by city DECD, so that is we no longer have that commercial facade grant. And then Blighted Property Review Committee blighted an additional 4 properties in November, bringing the list at December 1st to 177 properties, 28 of which are under some level of intervention by the Redevelopment Authority or the Erie Land Bank. So, and then moving forward, we're working with them and then the city to evaluate that list as we look to aggressively go toward, blighted properties here in 2022 with the housing plan and the land banks. Properties where we're certainly going to make a big jump in that. So that's my property report. Yeah, me too.
It's going to get interesting. It's going to get
Sorry,
interesting.
I'm getting excited. I'm so glad that it all worked out.
Yeah, me too. So I have a resolution for that to approve the property report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, and then as far as the rehabilitation report, we're still moving forward on the LHRD grant, sending out applications and getting that stuff processed through. We've also gone through, we have a substantial pile of waiting list applications. Basically, if you're not familiar with our waiting list application, we created a one-pager as we had funding, waiting lists and stuff, so we could capture some information on the clients and know what they need, before we were to send them the full 5-page application. So we had a substantial pile, probably almost close to 100 waiting list applications that we've gone through and started to prioritize those out into qualified census tract type individuals and an outside qualified census tract, so we can try to prioritize our CDBG funding that we have for this year, and then put those other ones that would qualify for the ARP funding over into a separate pile, so that as we, into 2022, we get those programs rolling, we can move those ones and start working on those applicants as well. Does it help, Rose, if I take my mask off?
Yeah, click and agree.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, along with that, like I said, the CDBG projects, we're moving those forward, working on some county projects and going through the Act 137 projects as well out in the participating boroughs and that. So those projects are moving forward. The inspectors have been going out trying to do recruitment for contractors. So we're trying to work on that end as well. So we can, as we go into 2022, again, we can start to plan out our training events and get that contractor pool growing, at least on the already built contractors, and then we'll work on that small minority contractor incubator program as well. So that's the rehabilitation report. And then general updates. Just a brief update. I attended the Homes Within Reach conference with Kathy and then Anna from our West Bayfront one as well. Good conference. It was good to be back in person. Certainly that in person versus the Zoom is so much better than the whole virtual conferences. But some good takeaways from it. Certainly we're going to work toward, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but building our relationships and collaborating on the healthy home side of the authority in our programs. With UPMC hopefully, and some of the other organizations, and then attended a conference on the Community Land Trust, and hopefully getting some funding through the county land bank to start that process and the planning, get that planning part of a community land trust going. So just some good information, some good networking, so certainly beneficial. So that was my general update for today.
Okay, unfinished business.
All right, on the RACP, just an update. Elmwood is moving forward. They're no real issues there. They're kind of moving theirs forward, their experience with it, so they're moving that. The Union Square, we're meeting bi-weekly now with our consultant, Mr. Ayub. The parking garage portion, segment 3 of the grant, the contractor failed to submit a lot of mill certificates and documentation on a lot of the products that he used. So they're struggling to get a lot of that from that. So we're meeting bi-weekly to hopefully help EMTA get what they need from the contractors so that we can get that segment 3 closed out and get that reimbursement over to EMTA. And then they're still working on their segment 5, the build out of the parking garage, but we certainly want to clear that segment 3 documentation before we move into segment 5. So that's kind of where we're at, is working with them to hopefully here, if not by the end of the year, the first part of January, to be able to get that segment 3 closed out by the state.
So the work is done for segment 3, but they haven't shown the materials.
Yeah, the work is done and been done since I believe late 2019, so early 2020. So there's just a lot of going back and getting these documents on the materials, the steel that they use. So
Don't they do that up front?
yeah, typically I think it was a matter of some turnover at EMTA, who was managing it, who was keeping track of that documentation. So the person over there now is trying to do the best she can to get that information together, but she's struggling with a contractor who's trying to figure out from every subcontractor where that stuff came from. So I'm sure it can't be easy. I can only imagine, but I mean they're doing the best they can, and we've got about half of it, so we're working through it right now.
And there's no update on the retail space? Any movement on what's happening with that?
No, I haven't got an update as far as what their plan is for it. They're moving out. Last I had talked to them, they're moving out of the food hall concept, since they felt that there was really no need to have 2 food hall concepts within this close to each other. So they're moving out of that, but where they're going to go with it at this point, I think they're still in that planning stage as they try to put together some construction documents. But of course, 2021 and the rise in construction costs certainly kind of threw them back on planning.
So, back to the need for getting information, because of course we're moving on to another construction piece, right? It's still,
Yes.
construction phase. So, is there a process of, materials going forward? This is the material we're gonna use, and it seems like that would be in a pre-phase, like, we plan on using this kind of steel to build the building, and not, and then after it's built, trying to get the information. So is there a process in place?
Yeah, it usually comes down to, like EMTA as their grant officer or their compliance officer to make sure that the contractor, meets their obligations. It's all in the construction documents and the contract that they're supposed to provide this information. It's just a matter of somewhere in the midst of that, there was turnover and things were dropped. So it's not all the documents, but it's a good 15 to 20 pieces of information, that it's just a matter of finding out that information for those certificates.
I've got nothing to add, Rose.
Yeah,
She's got it covered.
So
That's a hard space to be in,
it is, right?
simply because those materials were probably purchased by those contractors, and we don't know what kind of books they keep. Usually you have the plans that are given, and the architectural plans usually say some things,
Yeah.
but they don't give the specifics as to where it came from, what it should be, but not necessarily where it came from. So that's just a hard place to be.
Yeah, so I think, like I said, I think we're over the hill, we're on the downhill slide, so I think we're just a matter of getting them to fill out the documentation and get some signatures and pass it around. So, like I said, hopefully by the end of the year, if not the first part of January, we should have it finished up.
And, so we're providing not all of the money, but a portion of the money, is that correct?
Yes, it was a portion. I'm not, off the top of my head, I can't remember what the portion for segment 3 is. Segment 5, the remaining portion of that rack fee is a little over $400,000 that will be put toward the project.
And so going forward, is it, and again, also new at this, but is it appropriate that we can put some things in place saying we need you to have A, B, C, D ahead of time because we're giving you money? And so therefore, we want to know what materials we used because we're going to be accountable for that, or somebody's going to be accountable for that. Is there a way to put that in place so that, they're doing that beforehand and not
Yeah,
at
no,
the back end of it?
It's all in place, and I think 2020 had a lot to do with the misstep in the process. That the project ended, 2020 happened, nobody really, about 6-7 months went by before meetings started happening again from the end of the project until late 2020. So we're just kind of trying to fill in that void of, they moved on to another project, and, of course, in the construction world, nobody wants to go back and finish. They're already finished. The project's finished. They got their CO. They don't, but it's in the documentation for them to
So
provide
you're
it.
gonna feel like things are tied to money, right? So like when it's of course small construction projects, but in order to get the end part of your money, you needed to
Oh,
have.
and that's what they're waiting on. That segment 3 won't be approved and released until
Okay.
those
That
documents are,
comes, right.
the state holds that money
Right.
until.
Yep.
So, yeah, EMTA certainly needs to, they know they need to get it done to get that money.
Okay. All right. So, thanks for the update.
Yep.
We have a resolution to approve the 2022 meeting schedule.
So I put the meeting schedule down for the second Monday of every month at 4 p.m. The only thing I would like to mention is that back when we started using council chambers, the city did squabble a little bit that, our meetings run over and cause overtime on the security staff who have to keep the lobby open for public meetings. But just so you're aware of that when you make your decision.
Is it
They can be wherever, you just have to have the address, you know, and
Yeah,
it has to
we
be
can change, I mean,
accessible.
you can change the location, you can change the time, you can keep it the same. It's up to the board at their discretion to make that recommendation, so.
I don't know where else we'd have them though.
Yeah, this is the most convenient place and it works best for everyone. It's just, you know, when we have meetings that run late, the security staff has to keep the lobby open until we're finished.
And what is late? What time do they close normally?
4:30.
4:30?
Yeah.
So we would have to have that.
Yeah, City Hall normally typically closes at 4:30. You know, if we run late, they pay overtime for everything that we go over that.
I think it's just the nature of business, so I wouldn't worry too much. I advised early on that there would be problems with
Yeah.
the new setup, but this is one of them.
And we don't want to be responsible for breaking the budget now.
Yes,
Right,
I think
yeah,
we'll be,
that's what I'm saying, right, so like, the two options are we move our meeting out to earlier, which I don't know that we can all accommodate, those of us who are working.
Yeah, and sometimes the public would have trouble with that as well.
Right, so, or we are gonna have to keep their budget a little bit, sometimes when we go
Right.
over.
well, now that we're meeting every month too, that helps.
It does
keep
help
our
a considerable
meetings,
amount to
yeah.
them, so.
So, motion to approve the schedule, resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
might I add that, I guess Aaron's gonna have to email us more. Just so
Yes.
that, you know, while when we get here, it's a matter of decision-making,
Yeah,
more than anything.
yeah,
That's,
that's true, and then we can just come to the meetings and have
Yeah,
doc-
and-
questions out and email maybe.
it's crazy.
Okay, yeah, I can work more toward that.
Any other business?
All right, so the organizational chart that I provided to you guys, just kind of put together the organizational chart with some added positions. You know, the one change is that, you know, in going through all of this and looking at our program intake and stuff like that, and kind of a position that we haven't had that I feel we will need to have following our discussion last month. You know, I did add some stuff to the Director of Housing Programs, as we said about, you know, looking for funding sources, leveraging our current funding and working toward that, but also a Director of Program Administration that Holly would be filling is kind of an oversight or overview of our intake, our outreach, our public relations, our social media, our collaboration with the other health social service agencies in the area. You know, there's a lot of meetings and a lot of collaboration we can do with those, you know, and gain that intake. Their clients are typically our clients and vice versa. So, you know, certainly, you know, I need someone who is working on that, you know, along with the intake. So that's where that position came from. And then we, you know, of course, put together the blight property coordinator, and with, you know, as we had talked, a housing inspector, and then the loan officer and fiscal assistant is added in there as well for the revolving loan fund.
We had talked about that, fundraiser communication.
Yeah, revenue generator type.
Yeah, revenue
Development
generator,
director.
outreach, communication, that kind of stuff, media. Are you still thinking about that?
Well, yeah, and I think that's kind of where that Director of Program Administration has a lot of the media, the outreach, the public relations, you know, building those relationships, and then we also added in a lot of, you know, in building those relationships, there's going to be the ability to go and look at funding as well. So, you know, we'll basically bring in another admin and handle, you know, that way we'll have an admin to handle the administrative functions and alleviate a lot of that off of that position. So we've kind of divided that admin intake position we used to have into just a straight admin position, and then the Director of Program Administration.
So there's 6 additional staff that am I counting that up right? That you want to add in 2022?
There's 4 that we've added. I have loan officer and fiscal assistant on here more just so that they're on there, not necessarily that we're going to fill them. Certainly if the loan officer would be the priority on the finance side, and the fiscal assistant would be needed if it did become to the point where Carrie and that individual could not handle that position or the duties at that point if it got to that point. But four is the general. It's just, you know, whether or not that how we go with the revolving loan fund is really where I'm at there.
And so these are the position descriptions.
Yes. Yeah, some of the revised job descriptions.
And you're not asking us to approve this, you're just informing.
Yeah, just informing you.
This is something I spent a little bit more time reading. And it ain't gonna be half an hour.
So I do have kind of just a global question. And so in terms of thinking about next year, the calendar year 2022, when will we start seeing a little bit more activity and what, you know, by quarters there? Like first quarter is going to be fairly quiet, or we'll see an uptick in activity, or what's the schedule looking like?
Right, the plan is, you know, in the first quarter of next year, of course, once we get all the final agreement from the city and know what our deliverables are and what we're looking for as far as applicants and stuff like that, we're going to start to build the programs.
Okay.
You know, and I talked to the NGP group, and we're going to have an in-person meeting in January. The NGP meeting is going to be in person, primarily more for the housing planning. You know, I want to kind of have a layout of the programs, and then we're going to dig a little deeper into each of those and start to lay those out. So certainly that first quarter of 2022 is going to be to get those rolling. A lot more on the housing rehab, the healthy homes portion of it, and the blight will probably be the first three that we try to get out as quickly as possible. And then we're, of course, the loan program is going to be the second priority, and then we'll go on from there.
Okay.
And small minority contractor fits in there really at the same time, so.
So you're thinking first quarter propping up the programs with potentially those three moving forward within the first quarter being available, and maybe second quarter, the loan programs
Yeah,
would be ready. at
yeah,
some
because
point.
in talking with
So-
Chris Groner, you know, he certainly said 6 months is probably a good timetable if we were gonna build a loan program within the authority to figure out all those nuances and have the meetings and create everything that we need to create.
Yeah.
So in the document that we had, that we used to get the money, is it possible to put that into timeframes?
So like quarter or something like that, goals by quarter?
Yeah, so like, yeah, put a process map or a project map together for it.
So kind of like a strategic direction
Yeah.
for that, you know, we're gonna try to do this in this period of time, and whatever that looks like to you. If it's,
Yeah.
Quarterly, as Kathy just said.
Mhm.
And that would also put in there your first priority, second priority, you know, kind of like what your phases are gonna be.
Okay, yeah, absolutely, I can put that together.
Well, it keeps all of us accountable, and of course, if you need anything from us as board, you know, in terms of, you know, we need to step up as well and then be
Yeah.
available.
Absolutely. And I think QuickBooks is gonna be key if we're moving forward with additional funding. It sounds great for my personal finances, but it's good to have a system to use for our finances for the authority, so. Thanks.
So those are just the three loan programs that we had added in the housing plan, just kind of broke them out, start to detail those out. But the biggest part in, with the housing plan and to get the board's direction is how we want, you know, how the board wants to go. You know, is it, we want to build the loan program within the authority as we had talked, you know, and develop that whole process, you know, and so that we know kind of the direction going forward. You know, because in the conversations with Chris and the Erie County Redevelopment Authority was whether or not, you know, we wanted to contract with them for a period of time to start running the program or just build it in-house. Either way, it's got to be built somewhere from the ground up because it does not exist. It's not commercial, it's residential, you know, so it would, I think, be best off to have it in-house at the Redevelopment Authority. After giving it a lot of thought over the weekend, you know, I think you start to look at these forgivable loans and the revolving loan fund, you know, we're going to be involved from the beginning, so I think it being in-house is probably the best bet. A loan officer is not going to be cheap. That certainly is going to be a skill set that's going to have to be paid for. You know, and then of course there's software that's going to have to be purchased to manage those loans. But it's, again, you know, Chris said you know, he's welcome. He's willing to work with us either way, whether we kind of contracted it out or he just puts down a consultant base to help us get it up and running. You know, that's fine either way. Just so that the board can kind of give the direction that that's the way they want to go, so that we can do it that way. The Erie County Land Bank also approved a revolving loan fund, which would be residential based for county residents as well. And given that our revolving loan fund is residential based as well, you know, we would certainly house that as well and help assist them with that and their loan program.
I'd certainly support building it in-house, because I think you're right, you're going to need that continuity of service and from the time that the applications come in to the time that the project is completed and funded.
Yeah.
So at some point you're going to need that skill set, so might as well try to build it now while the program's early.
And I would agree, particularly if there needs to be any loan servicing after the loan is made, and follow up with the homeowner or the folks. I mean, just having that in-house and building capacities.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. The thing, you know, for you to think about as far as, you know, and recommendation is we would need to have a loan review board. You know, so on the bottom of that sheet I gave you, you know, the recommendation for a review board, they said would be about 5 individuals. You know, you'd be looking at a banker, a mortgage loan originator person, you know, real estate type individual, you know, an attorney, a community center group member, and then, you know, a board member. So certainly, you know, something to start thinking about, you know, and as down the road we're going to have to start identifying and reaching out to individuals to see if they would be interested in sitting on a loan review board.
Do any of our community centers currently do anything with loans?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mm-mm.
I think so. Yeah?
I don't believe anymore.
It'd be nice to be able to draw from that experience and that, you know.
If they manage any loans now, the community centers?
To be on this board, the review board, it'd be nice if we had somebody who had that experience who is currently at one of the community centers, since that's one of the requirements.
I see. Yeah.
So that's all I have as far as the revolving loan funds and the housing plan. As far as program planning, like I said, you know, we're going to meet the January ENGP meeting. It's going to be in person. Not sure location yet at this point, but we're going to meet in person because I think we'll be able to get a good hour and a half, 2 hours of planning in and that. So you'll be on the invite if you wanted to attend. You know, that you're welcome to as well.
And then I know when we had our meeting with council, we talked about we would continue to draw them in different areas, correct? That's how I understood it anyway. Particularly in this part of the program, because there was a lot of interest in this part of the program. So what is the forum for doing that? Does this go again before council?
It doesn't need to go before council for approval,
Okay.
but what I had envisioned is that once the programs are finalized and we're ready to pull the trigger and have them available, either as a grant or a loan, we would come to city council and give them an update on the progress. So progress reports, that'll be part of, we'll have required progress reports for the ARP anyway. But I think actually doing something in person in city council would make the most sense when we're ready. And we do have a city council person here. I wonder, Liz, do you have any input on how you think council would like to see progress reports from the redevelopment authority?
I would say, like kind of short, snappy progress report. I think the visuals are really good too. I'm really impressed with with the handouts we received, the graphics of how money is being allocated. So maybe there's a way to tell the story visually and short, and then for people who like more in depth, give it some more depth. Something where people can look at it and say, okay, now it jumps out at me that it's actually up and running. I think would be good to know.
Okay. It would be my suggestion that we do that at least the first year on a quarterly basis, because there's going to be so much happening this year, and then after that, we can figure out from there, but that would be my suggestion.
So make sure we keep them in the loop. So,
Yes. Yes.
We will certainly work toward that and get that information to them, yeah.
And the review board, who chooses that?
That would be, yep, the redevelopment authority board can
Do
keep
you
the,
propose people who have that particular background, or are you going to do a call out?
yeah, we could certainly reach out that way. We could reach out to anybody you would recommend, see if they would be interested in sitting on it. We certainly want to get people who would be on it for long term,
I did
that way
like
we can
the
have some
process,
consistency.
When I joined this authority, we had the online, you could apply if you had interest, which kind of opened the door to the whole community, people we might not know who might be interested in being a part of this type of process. So I don't know if that process is possible for this, but I did feel like that was a very transparent, open the door for everybody to say, oh gosh, yes, I'd love to do this. Because of course we only have our own worldview. There's certainly a lot more people out there than who works for us. So if we could do something like that.
Okay.
And there would be no residency requirement for a loan board,
No,
I assume.
no,
Yeah,
more
we
for,
just want the skill set,
yes, the skill set based.
Yeah.
which would be helpful.
So.
Okay. And when do you want those names? What are you thinking?
I would say probably end of the first quarter, by February,
Okay.
early March.
Early March.
That is all I have for this evening, this afternoon.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yay. I'm gonna have to start wearing watch. Today's not here.
Hey, all of you that were here, when I pass them out, on the top of your packet, there's the board member and a conference info sheet. If you could just jot that information down and get that to me, I would really appreciate it.
Are you on copy signs? Have you already checked them off and everything? What do you put for Jay when he's not here? Are you gonna